Hi guys, my name is Victoria Teel and I'm here to talk to you guys about how to take care of your Teel fans and some tricks and tips that I've done over the years to make sure that they last longer and longer. Okay, so it's very, very important that you keep your fan in the carrier bag that it came with from Teel Designs whenever you're not using it, basically. So things just happen. There's keys in purses, little pieces of paper, stuff on the floor. There could be something in your room in the bag that you, or in the box that maybe you put the fan in. And silk is a very soft and luxurious fabric. However, that means it is very sensitive to getting damaged. So please make sure that you always keep it in this all the time when you're not actually dancing with it. The other thing too though is how you put it in that bag. So think about your silk, okay, whether it's the extra long like this or a classic length like your hair. When you're trying to grow your hair out and not have breakage, you don't twist it and pull it and do this with the towel, at least you're not supposed to, right? So it's the same thing for silk. The weave will loosen and get a little bit damaged the more you twist and pull on it. And one way I found that kind of sneaks up on us is how we wrap it to put it in the bag. So if I have my fan here, notice I'm gonna let it just lay with just a nice flat hand. Be careful, no like big sharp rings or anything like that, like engagement rings. I'm gonna take my hand and I pull it underneath and then I just softly toss it over the front. Now, if this had twisted, I'm gonna let it untwist and then keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, okay? And you'll get the speed that works. If it's a little too bulky, you can pull a little bit to get some air out and then nice and smooth there. Then from there, it can easily go inside of your bag. Sometimes the tail kind of poofs, just kind of tuck it and pull. Now, one thing is, it doesn't matter if you have a pair, if you wrap them individually, if you wrap them together, it's however you would like to do that. Please just make sure that you keep it in the bag nice and protected. Okay, let's talk about loosening your fans. So, in your order, you had received these little spacers, like a little tiny bag. I'll show you closer here in a minute. And in there are spacers. So what these are used for is when your fan first comes, it's nice and tight usually, okay? And then as you start to loosen it and work with it, it gets loose, okay? So some people don't want it to feel that loose, but it's the natural evolution of any type of fan. So that's what these spacers are for. It's for you to kind of customize your feeling. So this is how you install them. So what you end up doing is you can squeeze the staves together. You're going to push the pin up a little bit so you can see the loose edge and pop the spacer in. Now, depending on, again, how tight or loose you want it, you can put start with just one. Then you could do one on either side if you really want to make it super, super tight. My general recommendation is I don't use spacers really at all. I like a little bit of that looser fan feel. But there is a time, like maybe after 6 months to a year, that it gets a little too loose for me, then maybe I'll pop a spacer in there. But everyone has their feeling that they would like. So that's what this little packet is. And just keep it around and it will help you feel like your fans are more brand new, even after many, many practices. Let's talk about fraying or fraying edges that you might see on your fan. Now, the first thing I want to explain is that we do not at Teel Designs hem the raw edges of the silk and why that is. So for me, when I was coming up with Teel fan and the technique and all of that, I really wanted the fans to flow with air underneath them. And what I found was any type of silk that was hemmed on that raw edge, that curved edge that you guys see on your Teel fans, or on that back shorter side, any kind of serge, any kind of hem, any kind of glue, it made this very stiff. And so when we do certain things like the poof of the silk over, like this, that you can see, what ended up happening is that won't really happen. So for me, it was a give and take. I would prefer to have to kind of give a little haircut here and there to my fan, but keep that really floaty type movement was my priority for my fans. So that's why we don't have any kind of hemming. Now, what that means is that especially on like your first use of your fans, when you go to play with them for the first time, you might see a little bit of fraying. Don't worry, don't stress out. It's not gonna unravel and unravel until there's no more fan. I promise, it will not do that. You're also gonna see in certain areas it seems to fray more than others. That is very normal as well because it's wear on the bias that the fabric has been cut. there are a couple things you can do to take care of this. So my recommendation is just use the fan, use it. When you're getting ready to go do like videos or a performance or take it out, basically some kind of public display, that's when it's time for a little haircut. So you have two options for haircuts. The first is just taking nice sharp scissors, lay your fan flat on a table and slowly take your time cutting off the fray. A little goes a long way, so I would suggest of course, if you have like sometimes there's one long string, that's easy, boop, like a piece of hair. But then when there's a bunch of little hairs almost sticking up, just take your time, and you can always cut more, but you can't cut less. You do have a second option, which makes it very easy to cut the fan. However, it does require getting some tools from the craft store. So you can use a rotary blade and a rotary board. And these, like I said, you can get from any kind of craft store or a lot of places online. And lay the fan flat, and it's like a pizza cutter. And you're gonna just run it where those edges are. Now this blade is extremely sharp, so please be careful. And the reason for the mat is that the mat is soft, and this will help take care of the blade. If you use this blade, like even say your silk is on a piece of cardboard, it's gonna cut through that cardboard. So if you have a table or something, you can't, it's not really a good idea to just cut straight over a table with a rotary. You're gonna damage your table as well. And the silk could get caught in that cut as well. So please make sure if you're gonna do the rotary board or rotary blade, make sure that you get the board as well. Now I wanna give a little note about fray check. What is fray check, first of all? It is this kind of glue-like material that, again, you can get from the craft store. There's many names for it, but I think the most common, at least in the US, is fray check. And what it is what sewers, seamstresses use it on the edge of fabric where they don't want to hem, and it goes on wet and dries hard, okay? Now it says it dries clear, but anywhere that it dries is a little bit darker. Okay, so say you put on light blue, it's gonna dry like dark blue. Now, I get questions about this a lot, like, well, can I do something like that instead of serging the edge? I don't personally recommend it. Of course, it's a balance of, the fraying, how much the fraying bothers you versus how much this little poof you want and movement of the tail. But for me personally, I do not recommend using fray check because it can dry a little bit darker. It can make it a little bit crispy on those edges. And then if you accidentally drop somewhere else on the silk, you can't really wash it out. So you're just a little bit at risk, so proceed with caution. Now also in regards to kind of snagging the silk and keeping it in the bag, the other thing is I get a lot of questions about nails. So especially if you're doing Teel fan technique with all these transitions and moving from handle to stave, you can do this. I have some students for a long time who love Teel fan and worked with it, who do have more of those like stiletto point nails. Now for me, I've always kept my nails, they are longer than my fingers, but they do tend to be a little more of a flat or a flat round cut, and I've always been fine with that. I do have students who have, like I said, that stiletto nail, and they've been okay, but they just make sure that they don't kind of really curve their fingers into the fan, because you might end up hitting, like on the stave or something here, a little bit of the silk. Also, if you ever have like some damage on your nail, like a broken nail that's cut or something, split, you want to be careful with that as well. And this is more predominantly if you're doing my style of fan technique. But I wanted to include that in here as well for you guys. Also, I did mention earlier, be careful with anything that has like the rhinestone claws that kind of go over rhinestone chain, or there's certain types of jewelry for the rings or the bracelets. You want to also be careful with that as well, because maybe you're doing something and you push this and you have your hand and boom, you could get a pull through the silk. So just keep these small things in mind when you're working with it, especially during practices and things like that. When you're experimenting, please be cautious of jewelry and nails. Okay guys, how to get rid of the wrinkles in the fan. So for this, usually I wait till I have my show or I'm making videos. When I'm just kind of practicing, I let the wrinkles be, because you will literally be unwrinkling it almost every time. But there's a few ways that you can do this. There's steaming and there's ironing. So let's first talk steaming. If you have an actual steamer, this is great. Basically, I like to take the fan, I'll put it on like the hanger for pants, so it clips here, hang it up, and I take the steamer and go. Now, if you're using a steamer, you do not want to put steam on the staves, okay? So you do not want to put it here. because that's going to slowly loosen the adhesive. Any kind of water heat mixture is going to loosen this adhesive, and that's a big problem. So you want to just steam from about here down. Then you can hold the edges and steam the edges a little bit, okay? But never near the bamboo. The other option for steaming without a steamer is your bathroom. So what you would do is turn your shower to hot, close any kind of doors that are with the shower so water doesn't go everywhere, close the bathroom door and leave. Now the fan's not in there, okay? Let it get kind of steamy, like a nice hot shower. You know how the mirror fogs over? Then what you're gonna do is go back inside, it will be warm for you, and take your fan. Then you're gonna flutter it up here. What that's going to do is help loosen any kind of wrinkles. Now again, you're not putting it in the shower, you're not putting it under direct contact with water, and you're not leaving it in there. I don't recommend, because you can't really tell when it's too much. It's very sensitive with the fan because of the adhesive. So that is a small option kind of if you don't have that steamer. You can also use an iron, but if you're going to iron, proceed with caution, okay? I always recommend steaming over ironing unless you're very experienced working with silks or ironing many different fabrics. So what you can do is set your iron to the lowest possible setting, no steaming, no spray, no water, very low. Let it get nice and warm. Lay the fan out on the ironing board or whatever surface you use, and slowly maybe work from the tail up, just ironing out the wrinkles. Now, never, ever, 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 ever iron the staves, okay? So nothing here ever gets ironed. It's only ever the loose silk in this region, maybe a little bit of that tail in the short side. You can do the outsides, okay? That's the only areas that you will iron. You will never wrinkle in between the staves because, again, the adhesive is at risk. Washing your fans. This is a big do not do it, okay? So even if you have our white night fans, which are solid white, you do not ever want your fan to come in contact with water, because the water can leave water marks, like water stains. So even on a white fan, you might end up with like a line where you washed it versus dent. Also, you can't have water come in contact with that adhesive around the bamboo, okay? So you're gonna have to stop it at some point. So just do not wash your fans at all. Keep them in the bag, try to keep them clean, simple as that. Okay guys, so hopefully all these little things help you take care of your fans and any questions that you might have had along the way for small things that you had seen. Now, if something happens or you have more questions, you can always reach out to us at Teel Designs. All the information is below on how to contact us, and also make sure to follow us on Instagram, which is at Teel Designs, because it's a great way to contact us for anything that you might need and also find more care tips.